Stop the noise, this bone-chilling story will change everything you value at 3 a.m. 3 a.m. in the heart of the quiet town felt like an unsettling nightmare. Shadows danced across the broken pavement, their contours twisting and merging like restless spirits. The streetlights flickered on and off, casting eerie pools of yellow light that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of an unknown heartbeat. The air was thick, heavy with an unseen tension, and a chill slithered down the spines of those unlucky enough to be awake. What haunted whispers lingered in the corners of this deserted street? What secrets lay buried beneath the ordinary? It all began when Jenna decided she needed answers. She heard rumors about the old Mitchell house, the one that loomed ominously at the end of Willow Lane. It was said that before it was abandoned, strange noises echoed through its empty halls, muffled cries, the sound of scuffling feet, and eerie laughter that could freeze blood. Every time someone dared to knock on the door, there was never an answer. Just the unsettling silence hanging in the air like a smog of dread. There was no logic in her decision, just the pulsing desire to unravel the mystery that gripped her the way a vice grips flesh. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the night. Jenna's heart raced as she whipped her head towards the noise, her eyes darting around, searching for the source. Goosebumps prickled her skin. A cat scrambled across the street, its fur fluffed in terror. Shrill screams echoed through the night, just for a moment, then vanished into nothing. It felt as if the darkness itself was laughing at her. Was she truly ready for what waited beyond that door? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A shiver shot down her spine as she hesitated outside the Mitchell house. There was no moonlight guiding her way, only a blanket of suffocating clouds hung overhead as if hiding celestial judgment. The front porch creaked under her weight, a tortured whisper snarling in the silence. She clenched her fists, her breathing heavy and ragged. A thunderous tick-tock rang out from within, each beat taunting her. Was it a clock ticking, or something far more sinister? There, at the edge of her vision, a flash of movement caught her attention. Jenna squinted into the pitch-black depths of the seemingly abandoned house, heart racing. A shadow swooped by a window, twisting and turning as if it were a creature from the depths of her nightmares. The door loomed before her, warped and rotting, its ancient paint peeling like dry skin. What would she find inside? The tension coiled tighter in her chest. Could this be the moment that either saved or shattered her very being? The air thickened with fear, and Jenna felt time stop. The whispers grew louder, desperate, pleading. Were they coming from the house? Or were they just in her head? The question hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. What could those voices reveal? She drew in a shaky breath. What awaited her just beyond that door? The front door creaked open with a groan, its hinges protesting like the dead returning to life. Jenna stumbled back, heart pounding violently against her ribcage. The darkness inside was thicker than the night air, as if it was a living thing, eager to swallow her whole. With each step inside, a fragile beam from her flashlight flickered to life, illuminating the dusty corners of the first room. Cobwebs hung like sinister decorations, draping over cracked furniture that had once cradled laughter and warmth. Now they sat as tombstones of memories long buried. Hello. Jenna's voice trembled, barely a whisper. It echoed back, twisted and muffled, chilling her even more. She cursed under her breath, wishing she could dismiss the fear clutching her throat like a vice. Then it came again, the tick-tock. This time louder. Insistent. A suffocating reminder that time was slipping. She rounded the corner into a hallway lined with old photographs. Faces peered at her, eyes hollow and full of secrets. They seemed to watch her every move, their silent screams echoing in her mind. A burst of cold air rushed past her, sending shivers racing down her spine. It was followed by the unmistakable sound of soft weeping. Confusion and terror clawed at her. Who was there? What had happened to those who had come before her? Jenna pressed deeper into the house, drawn toward the source of the sound. Every heartbeat felt like it threatened to shatter the silence that enveloped her. As she reached another doorway, the crying stopped abruptly, leaving behind a suffocating silence so thick it buzzed in her ears. She could have sworn she felt a breath brush across the back of her neck, icy and intimate. Instinctively, she turned, but found only shadows. Her pulse raced, panic rising. Was someone, or something, watching? She peered into the room, and what she found sent a rush of nausea through her. The walls were splattered with dark stains that clung like a curse, and in the center, an old rocking chair swayed gently, as if someone had just left it. The fabric was frayed, ripped in places, the kind of details that told stories words could never share. But the most disturbing part lay on the floor, a small, unmarked grave of ashes, with a plain wooden cross barely visible beneath layers of dust. It flickered in and out of her view, leaving her feeling dizzy, like the house itself was shifting around her. "Get out!" A voice broke through the stillness, sharp and urgent. Jenna spun around, her heart thundering in her chest. It was a child's voice, breaking and filled with sadness. She stumbled back from the doorframe, mind racing. Did she truly hear that? Or was it just an echo of her racing thoughts responding to the fear that consumed her? There was no turning back now. Had she unwittingly awakened something? A veil of dread fell over her like a shroud. But what frightened her most was the sudden thought, she wasn't alone, and time was running out. The clock and the voices converged into a frantic cacophony in her mind. Jenna dashed for the exit, a primal urge propelling her forward. Each step felt heavier, the shadows clawing at her ankles, threatening to pull her back into their dark embrace, but just as she reached for the door, a presence blocked her way, cold, dark, and utterly compelling. Jenna could hardly breathe as she turned to face whatever had decided she had overstayed her welcome. What had the house truly held within its walls, stirring in the darkness? And in that moment of sheer terror, Jenna understood, this was only the beginning. What awaited her next would change her forever. The figure loomed in the doorway, silhouetted against the dim light filtering from the hallway. Jenna's breath hitched in her throat, every muscle in her body tensed as her instincts screamed for her to flee. But her feet felt glued to the floor, paralyzed by the sight before her. The air thickened, saturated with an overwhelming sense of despair. "Who are you?" Jenna whispered, her voice quavered under the weight of dread. The shadow shifted slightly, the outline morphing into something more definite. For a brief second, she thought she saw the glistening of tears on what appeared to be a small face. It was a child, but not just any child, the same child whose voice had pierced the heavy silence, a voice laden with warning and sorrow. "Leave this place," the figure urged, but the words sounded like echoes from beyond the grave. The tiny hands reached out, and despite the fear that gripped her, Jenna felt an inexplicable pull. She took a step back, afraid of being drawn into a world she couldn't understand. Suddenly, the house seemed to groan, the very walls quaking as if in solidarity with the child's message. The tick-tock of the clock grew deafening, a pulse throbbing in her ears, reminding her just how little time she had. Jenna spun around, heart racing as she sought the exit. But the sense of urgency crashed against a wall of confusion. The path she had taken now felt constricted, the shadows elongating and merging, closing in around her. "Don't go." The child's voice pleaded, growing louder, more desperate. What happened here? Jenna's voice shook as she turned back to face the figure again. The child's eyes were wide, overflowing with sadness, and an unsettling knowledge that froze Jenna in place. With every heartbeat echoing in her ears, Jenna felt the house shift again, as if willing her to sink deeper into its secrets. The floorboards creaked beneath her, heavy like the burden of unspoken truths. The figure of the child began to flicker like a distant star, wavering just out of reach, but filled with a faint glimmer of hope. The rocking chair, now eerily still, seemed to pulse with energy, a heartbeat from the house itself. It drew Jenna's attention, and as she glanced back, the chair felt inviting yet foreboding. What had happened in this place? Who had been lost here? Then, as if sensing her thoughts, a sudden rush of wind howled through the house, breaking the heavy silence. The photographs lining the hallway warped and twisted, the faces morphing into distorted reflections of pain. Jenna felt a weight on her chest, pressing her down, urging her to stay and confront whatever darkness loomed. I can't stay here," she screamed, but her own voice felt swallowed by the suffocating air. "Remember me," the child's voice rose above the chaos, an echo of innocence amidst the terror. Jenna gasped, some instinct inside her recognizing that this child was not just a manifestation of fear but a piece of the puzzle that held the key to the house's torment. Her legs finally responded, propelling her towards the exit. With each desperate step, she felt the presence close in, its icy breath trailing along her neck. She barreled out of the room, ready to burst through the door, when it slammed shut before her. The sound was so final, so powerful, that it echoed through the bones of the house. Jenna's heart raced, her mind racing through questions that hung thick in the air. "What do you want from me?" she cried out, desperation lacing her words. Silence stretched in response, a pregnant pause that felt like the calm before a storm. The shadows around her began to sharpen, and for the first time, Jenna truly felt the weight of what lay ahead. A low growl emanated from the darkness beyond, breaking the silence, a sound so primal it sent a wave of dread washing over her. Time was slipping away, and the answers she sought were locked within the chaos of spectral whispers surrounding her. But as she struggled against the door, a voice returned, soft yet firm, whispering words that chilled her to the core. "Your time is not done." She froze, brain reeling as her gaze locked onto the darkened space before her. The pressure weighed down her chest, urgency melding with a realization. What was she meant to face? And why did she feel it calling her name? She took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown, unaware of the truth that lurked just beneath the surface. Because beneath all the dread and despair, something was awakening, something tied to her own past. What lay on the other side of the door might not just change her, but redefine everything she believed to be true. Jenna's racing heart beat a frantic tattoo against her ribs. As she stood immobile, the cold walls of the house seemed to creep closer, almost wrapping around her in a silent embrace. The voice, the growl, the flickering figure, it all felt like a storm brewing just beyond her grasp. She could feel the darkness swirling, and amidst the chaos, the child's haunting echo clung to her like a heavy shroud. "Your time is not done." It felt like a warning, a challenge, and Jenna shivered at the implication. What did that even mean? She took one tentative step back toward the door, igniting a chorus of old, tired creaks from the floorboards beneath her. The growl came again, deep and low, reminiscent of something she couldn't quite place, but it was familiar in the worst way. "Get out!" she shouted, her voice harsh and strained. The pressure in the air thickened around her, a palpable entity grappling for control. She pounded on the door, frantically rattling the handle. "Let me out!" Silence answered her, a cold, mocking stillness that fully encased her. She sunk to the floor, her back pressed against the wood, her breath hitching in her throat. What was happening? She couldn't shake the feeling that the house knew her, that it had seen some piece of her that she didn't even recognize. The rocking chair, now still, caught her eye again. A feeling of dread washed over her. It felt as though it were beckoning her to engage, to confront the very heart of the darkness that shadowed her. "Remember me," the child murmured in her mind, pulling at threads of memory she didn't know existed. A flicker of movement caught her attention. The shadows were shifting, coiling and unfurling like specters from forgotten tales. Jenna squinted into the dark, focusing on whatever lurked beyond her line of sight, but the uncertainty of the space made her tremble. Then, the silence shattered. A soft, childlike giggle rang out, light yet haunted, echoing through the hall. Jenna gasped and shot to her feet, instinctively stepping away from the door. That sound, was it real? Or another trick of the house? Why are you here? She shouted into the void. What do you want from me? The air thickened again, and she felt a weight compressing her chest. The photographs on the wall flared to life for a split second, a flash of faces twisted in agony, of endless sorrow. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes as realization surged like a wave. These were people, real lives, cut short, trapped. The wind howled once more, and she took a breath, steeling herself. I'm not afraid of you. The words felt feeble, yet the act of saying them filled her with a spark. In that moment, she glanced again at the chair, her instinct scrambling for clarity. What if the answer was entwined in the movements of that inanimate object? Could sitting in it reveal the truth? Jenna hesitated, heart pounding. I can't be scared. I need to know. She approached the chair, each step released an anxious energy that pulsed in her veins. The closer she got, the stronger the pull became, as if the chair itself radiated warmth amidst the swirling cold around her. Then, just as she was about to reach out, a loud crack split the silence, brimming with urgency and malice. A hidden door creaked open somewhere behind her, releasing a pungent odor that made her stomach churn. Run! A ghostly whisper echoed from the shadows, firmer now, commanding her to flee while she still had the chance. But the magnetic draw of the chair was undeniable. It called her by name, insinuated its way into her very being. Was this part of her past she had buried, the cornerstone of her fears urging her to take that step forward? She stood there, frozen between the fear of the unknown and the desperate need to uncover her truth. The child's plea rang in her ears, mixing with the growl, louder with every heartbeat. Then something caught her eye, a glimmer from the child's outstretched hand. A small object rested in the grip, illuminated by a sliver of moonlight spilling through a cracked window. Before she could take it in, another crash erupted from the darkness, pulling her focus toward the opening door that beckoned with an insatiable hunger. She could sense a decision looming, a choice that would thrust her deeper into the mystery. What if, she whispered to herself, heart racing, what if this is my only chance? With every ounce of courage, she took another step toward the rocking chair, knowing full well that the door may never be open again, but in the depths of that moment, a deeper question glimmered in the shadows. What awaited her beyond the chair? What truth was she prepared to face? As Jenna's fingers brushed the cool wood of the rocking chair, a shiver raced down her spine. She hesitated just for a moment, caught in the web of dread and curiosity that surrounded her. The air crackled with tension, thickening her skin and squeezing the breath from her lungs. What had she walked into? Another giggle rang out, echoing softer this time, almost playful, mingling with another sound, a creaking door that whispered promises of escape. But it was the chair that sang a song of memories, calling her back as if it held the key to understand everything that had been stripped from her. Don't! The voice was a sudden thunderclap, harsh yet fragile, ricocheting off the walls. Jenna spun around, eyes wide, her heart pounding hard enough to drown out every thought. A figure materialized from the shadows, no more than a silhouette at first, but then it took shape. A woman, pale and beautiful in a sorrowful way, stepped forward. You don't know what you're doing. Who are you? Jenna stammered, thousands of questions flooding her mind. She scanned the woman's face, searching for answers in the depths of her dark eyes, but found only an echo of pain. I'm someone who tried to escape, the woman whispered, trembling as she gestured towards the rocking chair. That chair holds secrets. It binds the lost. Don't let it bind you too. The bond wrapped tighter around Jenna, capturing her in a way the woman clearly understood. You don't know me. Jenna shot back defiantly. I have to know what this is about. I'm not afraid of the darkness. The woman's laughter was hollow. You may not be afraid, but it doesn't take care. It feasts on fear. Look into the chair, Jenna, see what's inside. Her voice faded, slipping back into the shadows while Jenna wrestled with her growing dread. Those pictures on the wall, the faces frozen in pain, they haunted her. With trembling hands, Jenna reached for the chair, feeling an echo of warmth creeping through her palm as she positioned herself to sit. The moment she did, a rush of memories flooded her mind. Voices blurred into a cacophony, drowning her in a tide of regret and loss. She closed her eyes tight, the memories intertwining with images of the child, of the laughter that felt familiar yet distant. No. She gasped, shaken by recognition. No. It can't be. But the vision only grew stronger. The giggle morphed into a cry, piercing through Jenna's defenses like a knife. The shadows thickened, swirling around her, closing in with an urgency that twisted her stomach as darkness whispered forgotten secrets. Help me. The child's voice was a fragile wisp, twisting in and out of clarity. It struck a chord deep within Jenna, awakening a sorrow she couldn't fully understand yet. The chair rocked slowly beneath her, almost soothing at first, but the comforting motion transformed into an unsettling movement. The house groaned, a deep and anguished sound echoing through its bones. Suddenly, the room pulsed with energy, illuminating corners Jenna hadn't noticed before, where crumpled papers haunted by stained letters littered the floor. I can't stay here. I need to get out. The reality of the moment sank deep, battling against her urge to unravel the chaos. She knew there was more truth buried in the shadows, but her heart screamed for the door. It beckoned, promising safety, yet it was the chair that pulled at her gut with an unshakable force. With shaking hands, she grasped the chair's arm, willing to tear herself away from the past. The echo of the giggle morphed into another voice, a man, deep and gravelly, bellowing from the dark recesses. You must choose, Jenna. Knowledge or freedom. Her choice hung heavy in the air. A rattling wind swept through the room, as if the very walls cried out for her decision. Just as Jenna felt the dawning of clarity, another crash reverberated through the air, shaking her resolve. Whatever was lurking behind that door seemed to swell with a hunger of its own. Which path will you take? Jenna closed her eyes, the weight of truth pressing down on her. The rocking chair swayed gently, and she took a shuddering breath. Would she face the past to save her future? Would she confront the darkness, or would she run, leaving it buried? What now? She whispered, heart racing, knowing she was standing on the edge of something monumental. No answer came. Just the deafening noise of the choices echoing inside her mind, waiting for her to make the next move. A split second stretched into eternity as Jenna's heart thudded out a frantic rhythm. Each thump resonated in her chest, a siren calling her back into the depths of the house, into the embrace of the shadows. With a sudden burst of resolve, she flung herself from the chair. The sudden rush of movement startled her, but the engagement with her own pulse reignited the scream within. No! She shouted, perhaps more at herself than the voices swirling around her. She took a wobbly step towards the door, the wood cold beneath her palm as she gripped the handle, then she froze. The painting on the wall shifted in her peripheral vision, its once still figures now fixated, watching, their eyes like hollowed orbs in the dimness. Was it her imagination? She could feel their judgment, a silent reflection echoing her own doubts, wrapping around her like the shadows, smothering and invasive. Help me, make it stop. The child's voice grew louder, filling the corners of her mind with a pungent desperation. Each plea cut deeper, as though it sought to tether itself to her soul. A low, guttural growl rumbled from the darkness, a response to her emotions, to her struggle. Jenna's breath caught in her throat, terror spilling from her eyes as she pivoted back towards the chair, caught in a fierce tug-of-war between truth and escape. I don't want to be bound. She cried, the very act of articulating her fear pulling her closer to the maelstrom of energy around her. Each word seemed to awaken something within the chair, a malignant consciousness that responded to her defiance. The rocking grew ferocious, the creak splitting the silence, bouncing off the walls like a wild animal cornered. Then she remembered the woman's warning. Secrets, lost. Jenna clenched her fists, summoning a tiny flame of courage. Her thoughts raced, merging the child, the laughter, the sorrowful eyes, and the urge to run. Knowledge or freedom? The words echoed back like molten iron, sweltering yet nourishing. maybe she couldn't escape without confronting the storm. The shadows around her lunged forward, cupping her cheek with an icy grip, coaxing her back towards the chair. "Face it, Jenna," she growled, her voice stronger now. What did she truly fear more, the pain or the ignorance? With a shaky breath, she crossed the distance again. As she sat back down, the energy shifted. This time, it felt like home, as if the chair welcomed her, promising the answers she so desperately sought. The memories surged back, crashing and weaving through her mind like a torrent. This time, she faced the flood head-on, her heart racing with purpose and dread. Visions of a sunlit room erupted in her consciousness. Laughter filled the air, the sweet sound melting into a child's joyful shriek. "Mommy! Look!" The image morphed into chaos, blurs of movement and emotion spirited away as dark figures intruded upon the light. Jenna gasped, overwhelmed by the ferocity with which the light snuffed out. "No! No!" she screamed as panic crescendoed. The room throbbed, the walls bending and rippling like waves. It was all too much. But in that moment of hysteria, a jab of realization struck her: the child was real. She had to find the child. Dim channels of light streamed from the rocking chair, illuminating the room, one fierce pulse after another. Each beat thumped with newfound urgency, yet Jenna remained anchored in her horror. She needed to break the cycle, to unearth the truth before it swallowed her whole. "Jenna! Help me!" The child's voice was clearer now, steady, wrapped in the spectral light spilling from the chair. It beckoned her to break free, to trace the path back to where happiness flickered and pain swarmed, but the door behind her creaked ominously, whispering of the darkness that waited outside, untamed and thirsty. A shadow loomed beyond, pulsating with uncomfortable life. From it came a whispering claw of uncertainty. With trembling hands, she turned to the doorway. The choice loomed larger, the air thick with dread. Would she step into the light of knowledge or be swallowed by the sinister unknown? A scream echoed no longer from the shadows, but from deep within Jenna herself. She pressed a shaky hand to her chest, fighting through the sound. The air crackled louder, suffocating and electric, and she knew, she had to decide, what awaited her on the other side of that door. Or would this chair reveal the truth she sought, at a price far darker than she could imagine? A deafening silence blanketed the room as Jenna's heart raced in defiance against the impending darkness. The air felt charged, heavy with secrets wrapped in a shroud of tension. Each second felt like an eternity, her mind spinning wildly as she weighed her options. The last glimmer of clarity faded within the walls that had witnessed too much despair. "Jenna!" The child's voice pierced through the thick air once again, fragile yet haunting, like a glass shattering in the stillness. Within that simple plea lay a desperate urgency that tugged at her very core. With one final glance at the swaying shadows, she gripped the armrests of the chair, feeling the coarse fabric clawing at her skin. "I have to." On impulse, she plunged deeper into the memories flooding her consciousness. They danced like phantoms, brief glimpses of joy intertwined with the gnawing claws of despair. The laughter from the sunlit room was joined by something darker, a looming figure that flickered at the edges of her mind like a cursed film reel, forever looping. Jenna gasped, her breath hitching as the recollection tightened around her throat. The figure a man? No, a shadow, darker than the fabric of night. Screams followed. Faces twisted in torment. She gasped again, trying to pull herself away, but the static of memory wrapped tighter, trapping her in the overwhelming tide. "Mommy!" The familiar voice sliced through the chaos, now sharper, transforming into something vicious. "Help me!" "Stop!" Jenna shouted, forcing the words from her lips. She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing to banish the visions, to strip away the veil of anguish. But it was like cutting through ice. A slight fracture appeared but only deepened the madness. "Help me," the voice whispered again, softer this time, almost like a caress. Each word crashed against her resolve, resonating deep within her, calling her to fight against the current. Somewhere in that asking, there lay a thread of hope, a lifeline she dared to grasp. "Just let me in. She pushed past the memories of pain, surging with every ounce of resolve. The dim light brightened with each desperate moment, illuminating the edges of the room as though the chair became a portal. As she leaned forward, compelled by the unseen force, the shadows thickened, wrapping around her silhouette. A chill slid down her spine, not from the cold, but from the presence of something lurking. "It's time to choose," the voice implored, rising above the clamor. As if in response, the door creaked wider, revealing a sliver of darkness that whispered promises of both freedom and despair. Jenna felt the ground shift beneath her, reality warping like melting wax. She trembled, caught between a choice that could shatter her sanity. Did she surrender to what lay beyond the door or delve deeper into the embrace of the chair, the only comfort she had left? In that moment, she made her decision. With a swift motion, Jenna clawed her way out of her mental turmoil, stamping down her fears as she wrenched herself free from the chair. The spectral light flared around her, pulsating like a beacon as she careened toward the door. Then, just as she reached for the handle, a deafening roar erupted behind her. The chair convulsed violently, the once glimmering light twisted into shadows, hissing and howling, a prelude to the oncoming doom. "Jenna!" The child's voice screamed, echoing with a terror that made her blood run cold. Reality torn, she turned just as the wooden chair splintered apart, the fragments spilling dark secrets. Would she have the strength to face the darkness that threatened to engulf her, or would she succumb to the secrets that had been chained within that cursed chair? The choice loomed before her, and in that moment, she understood, the real horror was just beginning. Jenna's fingers brushed the cold metal of the doorknob, her heart hammering against her chest like a caged bird desperate for escape. The dim light flickered in a dangerous rhythm, casting sprawling shadows that danced like twisted souls. She couldn't afford to look back. She couldn't afford to hesitate. The splintered remnants of the chair crashed to the ground, echoing like thunder as if the very walls were groaning under the weight of its secrets. Jenna swallowed hard, her eyes darting to the doorway that now seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Enhancing the allure was the child's voice, fragile but insistent, pulling her like a current in a raging river. "Mommy, no more." If she didn't act now, the darkness would swallow her whole. She turned the handle, adrenaline rushing through her veins, and flung the door open wide. A heavy fog rolled in, smothering her senses as she stepped through. The air was thick with decay and dampness, a world forgotten and abandoned. As she crossed the threshold, her mind clouded with doubts. Was this the freedom she sought or a deeper descent into madness? She could practically hear the walls whispering. A cacophony of muffled screams and hurried breaths enveloped her. With each labored step, she entered a corridor lined with doors, their surfaces marred and warped. Jenna hesitated, torn between the instinct to explore and the urge to run back where the haunted chair offered familiarity. "Help me!" The voice rang out again, a sharp reminder that somewhere within this prison of despair, the truth awaited her. Her resolve solidified, she approached the first door, trembling fingers poised on the cold steel handle. As she twisted it, the door creaked open, revealing a room blanketed in shadows. Once inside, Jenna felt tendrils of an unseen force brushing against her skin. The air crackled with tension, thick with something unspeakably wrong. A solitary light flickered above, illuminating fragments of a child's bedroom, torn stuffed animals, broken toys, and a faded picture hanging askew. Her heart sank, everything felt painfully familiar. But then, she noticed a small, ornate music box nestled in the corner. Without thinking, Jenna moved closer, mesmerized by how it shimmered in the dim light. She reached out and opened it, the melody spilling forth like a forgotten memory, sweet but haunting. Suddenly, the room shifted. The shadows began to swirl violently, angry whispers echoing, drowning her in fear. "Time is running out," they hissed. "You must choose." Jenna could feel the panic rising in her throat. The melody mixed with the chaos, her heart racing out of sync as images filled her mind, flashes of a smiling child, a wintry day, and then an explosive darkness that shattered the idyllic scene. Tears prickled at her eyes as the truth clawed its way to the forefront of her mind. This place was a breeding ground for guilt, where shadows were born from unspoken fears. "Mommy, please," the voice came again, now a desperate wail that pierced through the tumult. It beckoned her back. Could she truly save anyone trapped here? "No, I can't," she cried, backing away from the music box, but the shadows lunged forward, creeping toward her like a pack of wolves. Just then, as if sensing her defiance, the room shrieked a bone-chilling sound that seemed to resonate from the depths of her soul. The walls buckled inward, and Jenna stumbled back, caught between the realm of light and darkness. Her last chance for escape lay in the other doors, but which one would lead to salvation? Without a clear answer, the very air seemed to stifle her breath. Did she have it within her to fight against the tide? To press on, or to turn back? And then cracks appeared in the floor, fissures that spread like a disease, whispering of impending doom. The voice called one last time, raw with pain, "Mommy." Jenna's heart ached as she turned toward the nearest door, the whispers urging her on. With every ounce of courage left in her, she lunged into the darkness, praying it would not consume her whole. But just as she crossed the threshold, the ground beneath her shuddered violently. Something ancient and ominous was awakening, and Jenna could only brace herself for what lay beyond. What horror awaited her on the other side? Would she find the strength to confront it, or would she be swallowed by the shadows forever? Jenna plunged through the door and into a new realm of darkness, heart racing as if outpacing time itself. A palpable chill enveloped her, sinking deep into her bones, making her shiver. The remnants of the previous room faded behind her, but the whispers followed, curling around her like smoke. They taunted her, gnawing at her resolve. She landed in a cavernous space that felt like a forgotten basement, the air thick and oppressive. Dust motes floated in the meager light, swirling in the faint beam of an overhead bulb that flickered like a dying star. Shadows clung to corners as if hiding from something worse than themselves. As Jenna adjusted to the dimness, dread coiled tighter in her stomach. "Mommy," the call was muted, more of a distant echo that danced on the fringes of her awareness. Each word wrapped around her heart like barbed wire. Pressing forward, Jenna scanned her surroundings. Unfamiliar shapes stood against the wall's furniture cloaked in dark sheets, like ghosts waiting to be uncovered. She hesitated, realizing that what was left behind could either reveal her path or lead her deeper into despair. Then she noticed a mirror leaning against the wall, its surface cloudy and obscured by ages of neglect. She felt compelled to approach, stepping carefully over what seemed to be debris from dreams shattered long ago. As she gazed into the murky depths of the glass, her reflection was distorted into a grim visage, eyes wide with panic. Who was she becoming? Suddenly, the light flickered violently, and her distorted reflection morphed again. Jenna could have sworn she saw a figure standing behind her in the mirror, pale and fragile. Was it another trick of her mind? Or simply a reflection of the hollow pain she felt? "Don't trust the mirror," a voice thundered from behind. Jenna whipped around, heart thudding in her chest, but there was nothing. Only the lingering chill of presence that vanished as quickly as it had come. Fear clawed at her throat, and she turned back to the mirror. The figure was gone but left a twinge of awareness in its wake. She had to keep moving. In this place, every hesitation drew her closer to the edge. "Help me." The voice rang out again, this time more urgent. It spurred her into action, pushing her to another covered object shrouded in mystery, a trunk, its leather cracked but begging for release from the dust of neglect. Jenna knelt beside it and unfastened the latch, her hands shaking. A deep breath steadied her. She opened it wide, and what spilled out was a cascade of forgotten memories, photographs, letters, and a child's worn shoes that felt impossibly heavy. Each item filled her chest with an ache as old as time itself. One photograph caught her eye, a simple, sunny day. A laughing child with dark curls and a smile that could light up the darkest corners of the universe. Jenna's heart clenched. There was a joy around that child, tinged with a repressed sorrow that she recognized all too well. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension again. The ground beneath her seemed to pulse, and the shadows twisted violently. "You must choose." The voices hissed in a frenetic chorus, reaching a deafening crescendo. Jenna's breath caught as the trunk flung itself shut, nearly catching her fingers, her vision blurred, she could barely think over the rising panic. Was she meant to free the whispers or confront her past? Light glimmered in the periphery, but dark urges pulled at her soul. She felt both unstoppable and utterly trapped in the web of her own making. As she steadied herself, a new door loomed larger than before, illuminated by a bright glow as if daring her to step through. Would this door lead to answers or even more peril? With one determined breath, Jenna chose to move toward the light, uncertain of what awaited her but knowing she had no choice but to confront whatever lay ahead. Jenna stepped through the luminous door, heart pounding like a drum. The sudden burst of light enveloped her, spilling warmth over every inch of her chilled skin. As the brightness faded, she found herself standing in a vast, vibrant field teeming with colors she thought only existed in dreams. But even amidst the beauty, an unsettling tension weighed heavy in the air, a reminder that this serene scene was tainted with shadows lurking in the corners of her mind. "Mommy!" The child's voice burst like a firework through the tranquility, breaking the spell of stillness. Jenna's heart seized. Without thinking, she took off running across the grass, each step fueled by desperation. Palms clammy, breathless, she searched the horizon for the owner of the voice. In the distance, she noticed a familiar figure, a small child with dark curls, vibrant and alive, standing alone. Jenna's heart ached, she recognized that face with a bittersweet pang. "Come to me!" the child cried, stretching small arms out wide. Jenna's chest tightened with joy and terror, that intoxicating mixture spiraling her forward, but just as she reached out, the ground trembled, shaking the very fabric of the scene. The brilliant colors dulled, washed away like a child's drawing in the rain. Dark shadows crawled up from beneath the earth, swallowing the joy with insatiable hunger. "No! Not now!" Jenna screamed. "Help me!" The voice became frantic as the child's form flickered, battling against the encroaching darkness. Jenna collapsed to her knees, helplessness clawing at her throat like a grizzly bear. Faces shifted in the background, spectral figures watching her, eyes hollow, mouths coiled with whispers of regret and fear. "Why won't you listen?" The shadows twisted maliciously, and Jenna gripped her head in anguish, determination suddenly flooding her veins. "I will not fail you!" she yelled, her voice a battle cry against the noise consuming her. She pushed through the pain, the visions from the shadow world resurfacing the rocking chair, the trapped souls that hungered for release. No longer could she allow fear to dictate her every move. Jenna dug deep, summoning every ounce of courage simmering within. "I will face the darkness with you," she promised, hoping the child could hear her. The shadows paused, retreating slightly, and Jenna shot towards the child once more. "I'm coming." She could feel the warmth of the heartbeat behind the miniature figure, the promise of a bright future flickering just out of reach. As she closed the distance, the shadows surged forward, like a monstrous tidal wave crashing down. Jenna instinctively opened her arms wide, a shield against the tidal forces turning upon them both. "Stay with me." She felt something connect within her, a spark that ignited hope. "Believe!" she shouted. The moment her words melted into the air, a brilliant light erupted from her core, bursting forth like a star igniting the dark sky. The shadows recoiled in terror, flinging themselves away from the radiant glow. Jenna didn't hesitate. Filled with love and desperate intent, she reached down, wrapping her arms around the child, feeling a surge of warmth that filled her with life. "You are not alone." Tears streamed down her face, hot and cleansing. The light expanded, swallowing the encroaching darkness in its embrace. The shadows screamed, their veils dissolving like smoke dissipating into the wind. The field brightened with every second, vibrant hues of hope and joy cascading into view. Nature thrived, flowers bloomed, and laughter echoed in the air. Suddenly, the child tilted their head, innocence shining through their eyes with a knowing that Jen knew well. "You came back." The child's voice had transformed into the sweetest melody, filling every crevice of Jenna's heart with love. "I will always come back for you," Jenna promised, gripping the child tightly. I will never leave again. In that moment, she felt a bond stronger than time itself, transcending fear and circumstance. It was love pure and unyielding, binding them together across the fabric of life and death. The last remnants of shadows melted into nothingness, leaving them embraced in a glowing field of freedom. Let us go home, Jenna said, the weight of years melting away. The landscape shifted, swirling around her, transforming into a snug, sunlit room. They landed gently, safe and sound. Jenna surveyed the familiar space. It was filled with warmth, filled with love. The music box rested again on the table, an emblem of memories reclaimed. Mommy. The child beamed, gazing at the walls adorned with laughter and light. There was no more darkness here, only the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Jenna knelt to embrace them, fierce and tender, knowing nothing would shatter their bond again. Wordlessly, they saw their future of hope stretch infinitely before them, together carving a path towards joy, past shadows, their past not gone, but transformed. From that point on, they would step into the light, letting go of the weights that had kept them bound. As Jenna held her child, she knew the darkness would always whisper, but now she had the strength to banish it. Together, they walked toward their destiny, knowing love would always be the most powerful force of all, and thus they left the haunted shadows behind, embarking onto the next chapter of their lives, hand in hand, hearts aligned. Now, before you go, you need to let me know what you think. Smack that like button now, it really helps us out. And if you can, flood the comments with your thoughts and theories about this ending. You can't afford to miss what comes next, so subscribe immediately to the channel so you stay updated on the exclusive stories we've got in store. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your voice matters here. Together, we can navigate the mysteries that lie ahead.